more information. There'll be more decisions made, and we'll continue to follow those decisions with what's in the best interest of the health and safety of our players.
Ward?
Dennis, I would just say in answering the question that we made decisions months ago now about 6 out of 8 games, not knowing where this pandemic would take us. We were all hoping to play all 8 games. And like we have done on the medical subcommittee, which I sit on, and throughout this process, we have discussed, we have adjusted, we have changed. I don't believe that anybody, Ohio State or any other team, should just be punished because of decisions we made by looking at 8 games and saying we should play 6 and not knowing the effects of what happens on to them in their team versus what others, because of what happens to our team, affects them. And so I would be open, and I think the conference would be open to having a discussion about whether or not we should make adjustments, whether or not schedules should be adjusted to get Ohio State to play enough games, either 6 or to play in the championship game with 5. But I don't think we should just hunker down and say, well, we said 6, so that's going to be it. I think they deserve, the conversation deserves to happen to see how, if we can have any adjustments made. This is unprecedented times for everybody, and we need to make sure that we are flexible and able to move and make decisions based on the data that we have.
Thank you.
Corey Woods, please. Go ahead, Corey.
This question is for Ward. About how many cases were there for the positive COVID cases that ultimately made you guys go with this direction? If you can give that number out.
Well, Corey, at this present time, we don't have a good enough handle on where this is going to stop. But I could just tell you, as I said earlier, we paused last week because of the increase in numbers on a daily basis, and those numbers kept increasing through this week, through the weekend, or into earlier this week. And so for me, and more importantly for our medical staff, as we started to look at the number and the percentage of our players who were impacted by COVID and impacted by quarantining, it became really apparent to us all that no matter how much we wanted to play the game, that we started this back in March with the goal to put the health and safety of our student athletes, our coaches, our staff as the first priority. And as numbers continue to grow, we can't ignore and put first how much we want to play this great game against Ohio State. We have to put their health and safety first, and until we have a good sense of that and the control of that, there's no reason why we should move forward knowing that we don't have a good handle on the COVID cases on our team right now.
Justin Rose, please. Go ahead, Justin.
Hey, Jim, question for you. You obviously had been a proponent of having this season be played back in the summer. Just emotionally, how much of a toll did this take on you? And from what you saw from your team, knowing how much this game meant to you, to the program, to college football as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying before, I mean, when you go back to the summer, to June, July, August, I mean, there was talk that there wouldn't be football in college, and you know, we were proponents of there being football. It ended up that we were able to compete, and so were many other college football programs, and you know, players supported them and them wanting to play, and getting the training and getting the getting the competition. As I said, we knew there'd be obstacles. There would be trying times. We anticipated that, and the possibility of this current situation was something that was a possibility, but and we from the very beginning we're always going to mitigate as much risk as we possibly can to the health and safety of the players, the staff, of all was going to be the first priority. And happy that we've been able to compete, and we'll be and hope that we can compete again and prepare for that.
Okay, next, Larry Lage, please. Larry, go ahead.
Jim, and if anybody else can address this, what do you think the chances are that you'll be able to play another game perhaps in 2 weeks? And what can you do in the meantime to keep your healthy players, in condition and relatively sharp?
Want me to take that one?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the first priority, the priority of the last, as Ward has said, and I think Sammy also, stemming the COVID positives has been the objective here the last week, and still trying to get that under control, and hopefully that'll be looking better now in the next few days. Ultimately, we were told the number of people that were out due to COVID was too high, and so there's the real possibility that we could play again before this season is over. So our players, as I said before, they want to play, and they wanted to play this week. They want to play next week. So they're going to continue to condition and prepare for that possibility.
Daryl Conway, can you jump in here and talk about answering Larry's question about the process and what we do on a day-to-day basis to ensure the safety and well-being of our students?
Sure, thank you. Our football program from day one has been incredible with the support and culture that they have exhibited in making sure all of the mitigation strategies that we put in place that they're following on a daily basis. So we will continue with the daily COVID mitigation strategies that have been in place. They will do their daily survey and report symptoms on a daily basis. If they have any, they'll wear a mask. They'll utilize the hand sanitizer as much as they can. We've had in place since the beginning a limitation on the locker room, to de-densify the locker room. And it's a system where only a certain number of people are allowed in the locker room at a time. We will continue with that system. We will continue with no meals in the building, and we'll continue with a virtual first attitude of doing as many meetings virtual and as many things virtual as we can. With regards to the workouts, once the players are working out, we'll try to do as much as we can outside, and we'll de-densify the numbers in the meeting rooms and in the weight room in terms of how many athletes are in there at a time working out to help de-densify that.
And I just want to add that our student athletes have really worked hard and are diligent. And this is probably as much a reflection of where we are in our state and in our area, that we've seen an increase, the highest increase in our state. And people in our state are really working hard and being diligent and masking up and doing the things that are necessary. This is a reflection of being involved in a pandemic with very high rates of COVID virus in our communities in our state and our nation. And so I don't want any of this to be reflective of our student athletes in their efforts to really keep themselves and their teammates safe. And I think everybody around the Big Ten has spoken, all the ADs have spoken about how much their student athletes are working at keeping themselves free. But this is just an unbelievable virus in terms of the transmission.
So we're going to come back here now
Thank you for
live
that.
to
Next
our
question.
studios in Grand Rapids after hearing a bit from Coach Jim Harbaugh of the Michigan Wolverines, also the athletic director there at the school, Ward Manuel, and some of the health experts associated with the program. So we're going to bring in now our expert, Jason Hutton, who was listening to that press conference. And Jason, the athletic director, called it one of the greatest rivalries, the greatest rivalry in the sport. And according to a lot of people, indeed, he is right. Not having it, what is this going to mean for Michigan fans and also Ohio State fans?
Well, that's the thing, is we've seen plenty of college football games be canceled this year because of COVID, but this is arguably the biggest game of the regular season. Certainly people in this part of the country think it is. And so losing this is certainly on another level. For Michigan fans, certainly it's disappointing. Michigan wasn't expected to win this game. They opened as a 30-point underdog, which you don't often see in a Michigan-Ohio State game. There's no secret it's been a tough year for the Wolverines. Will they get to play again? I thought that was an interesting question for Jim Harbaugh, because they could play, I guess, next week, December 19th, because that's the week of the conference championship games. Of course, Michigan won't be playing in the conference championship game, so they might try to schedule a game, get one more in. Certainly, they don't want to finish the season with the loss to Penn State, which is where it sits right now in a 2-4 record. For Ohio State, this is where it gets much more interesting. They're 5-0. The Big Ten said when the season started, you have to play 6 games to play in your conference championship game. So if Ohio State can't find a game to play this Saturday, they will not have enough games played to play in the Big Ten Conference Championship game next Saturday. The only way Ohio State can play another game under the current rules would be to play another Big Ten team. The Big Ten has said no non-conference games. It's interesting. Texas A&M, which is ranked 5th in the country, Ohio State is ranked 3rd in the country. Texas A&M's game with Ole Miss has been postponed because of COVID for Ole Miss. So Texas A&M's available. Ohio State could play Texas A&M this week. Theoretically, would be a huge resume game for both teams fighting for a college football playoff spot. But the Big Ten rules state they can only play Big Ten games. So under those rules, they would have to have another Big Ten team come open for this Saturday. We've seen games to come together at the last minute. Maybe that will happen. Also, there's been talk maybe the Big Ten will revise its rule in terms of amount of games to play in a conference championship. But if we get to December 20th, when we select the college football playoff teams, and Ohio State's only played 5 games, and teams like Alabama, Notre Dame, and Clemson have played 9, 10, 11, it's going to be hard to make a case for Ohio State, having played only 5 games, because we've seen them so little. So that's where the big ramifications are, in my opinion. What will happen to the Buckeyes? Can they get to the college football playoff now, not playing Michigan on Saturday?
Yeah, and really what a shame it would be for them to have not lost a game at all and still miss out on that opportunity. And even Ward Manuel jumping in there at the end, Jason, and saying, you know, we should figure this out. We should try and get them what they're owed. So that just says a lot coming from someone who's associated with the Michigan staff. So thank you for your insight on that. We're going to see it in subsequent hours here to talk a little bit more about this. A big loss for the Michigan and the Ohio football communities. Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.